Welcome to the MBVS show. Boom! I'm your host, Mark Hayford, coming at you like a pack of elephants running through the jungle rampant because they've seen a mouse. Woo! Greatest day of your life. Greatest day of your life. We are here waging a war, stomping through 2022, talking about mental wellness. I didn't come along. I brought friends, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go to the Big Apple. He's been in trauma and bereavement business. He is a five-time author, Dr. Norman Freed.
Hello.
Gracing TEDx stages. Yes, she is. Winning Emmys for voiceover all the way from the West Coast. My friend, your friend, Tasia Valenza.
Hello. Happy to be with you.
Podcaster, author, children's author, tap dancer. What doesn't she do? Ladies and gentlemen, it's my friend. It is Barb Heller.
Hello.
And that's right. You got to have street cred. And we do that by having not just a college professor, but a neuroscientist, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Hayley Nelson.
Hey, everybody. A little of everything. What's up?
What's up, squad? How's everybody feeling?
Good.
Happy.
We got lots of colors going on here. Lots of color.
We color coordinated, Tasia and I. I think this is the second episode where we did this.
Right. It was all mental. It was all connected.
This is
the universe
beautiful.
is connected.
It's good to see everybody. And listen, if you are watching us here, if you're listening to us, we do this every week in the summer of 2022. Mind, body, voice, soul. We are coming through trying to serve up some mental wellness, taking your questions. If you have questions, reach out to us. We'd be happy to get it right here on the show. So with that, before we get to some questions, because we have a boatload, so it's hard to sift through what we're going to put on here, we have a disclaimer. So, ladies and gentlemen, paper, old school. The content heard here today is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare providers. With any questions that you may have regarding a medical condition, potential mental illness, never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard in this video. Let's go. All right, guys, this is going to be an interesting show. I cannot wait to bring some of these interrelational questions to you guys and kind of see there's so much perspective when we rip through these, and I want to see what perspective you guys are bringing here. So first one, are we ready? First of all,
Yeah.
Yes, we are. You're always ready. That's why you're a squad. Here we go. My son is finally reconnecting with his father after years of silence. His father and I had a horrible divorce many years ago. I won't lie. I'm kind of jealous. They're getting along so well. After all these years, I raised my son alone. Am I wrong for feeling this way? That's such a raw, authentic, here's what I'm dealing with question. It's real courageous to send it in. What do you have?
I'll take it quickly. I had a terrible experience with my father after my parents got divorced. And I didn't speak with my father for many different chapters. I never completely lost touch because I'm just not that way. But phone calls were very short. And if they, sometimes I'd go months without speaking with him. I went overseas into a war zone and would email him once a month just to kind of dig in. And as the child of someone who went through that and having a mother who, was going through horrific trauma, who spoke horribly about him for years, even as an adult. And I'm going to reiterate that I was 18 when they split up and 22 when they got officially divorced after many mediations and hundreds of thousands of dollars unnecessarily, in my opinion. Their last thought was about the children. And as a child survivor of that, even though I was an adult at the time, I would say word to the wise, please put your kids first. They are in so much pain. Even if they don't look it or act like it, or even if they're over 18, that's a common thing I'm sure our therapist can attest to. I am still getting through the pain of that. The fact that they did not put my sister and I first. And so I would say, keep your own feelings out of it as much as you can and seek your own therapy and your own grief about that. No matter what your relationship was with your partner, you have children that need two parents or as many parents and support as you can give them.
Beautiful. I'll just tag off with that because I also was a child of divorce. And I did experience a lot of anger between my parents. And, it was something that we the loyalty factor, I've actually had the opposite, where I felt both, pulled in the opposite directions, but there was a lot of emotional trauma because I did love, and I was always having a hard time when one was belittling the other. But what I would love to address is the question, is it okay that I'm feeling this way? And as a, in the communication world, yeah, I want to honor that it is okay to feel those feelings, because you're human and you've been there for so long. And when a parent, is that one that is the primary and picks up the slack, and then all of a sudden the white horse comes in, whoever it is, father or mother, it does feel hurtful. So it's very, very understandable. And I would say, again, to honor that, to acknowledge, yeah, this hurts. And this feels like I've done all the work and now someone else is getting the glory, who, again, with emotions. But if you can calm and love and soothe your own inner child who's experiencing that, and then recognizing your child, the benefit of your child getting that connection, reconnection, it will, I think, make a big difference in how you approach it, meaning a little bit more compassionate, that even though you are feeling this way, and you should honor that part of you, that you still love your child enough to know what's best for them, which is to have a relationship with both parents, as Barb so eloquently said, if possible, and just be as supportive of that as you can. That's my thought.
I can jump in too.
Okay, please go ahead, Hayley. Yeah.
Well, only because I feel like it's a party that we are all children of divorce. I don't know. So the three ladies, I don't know about the two guys. We'll have to hear when you guys go. But yeah, my parents also divorced while I was a teenager. I was like 14, 15. And but I was very fortunate that it was as good of a divorce as it can be, right? That they communicated, they still lived in the same town. We shared 50-50 custody. And, like it was, as Barb said, like they put the children first, and that's what worked for them. But not to say that that's what will work for every divorce, right? But I did, for me in my situation, my parents' divorce almost allowed me to have a better relationship with my father, because he was absent, he was distant when they were together, because there was that dynamic where he wasn't fully present when he was in the house with us. And then when he had his own life and situation, then he and I were able to develop our own relationship. And that was so pivotal for me. It was very important for me that I had that relationship with both parents, but that's not to say that it didn't really hurt my mom, and I could see it when things like that would happen. And I'm sure it also hurt my father when I would talk about things that I was doing with my mom and how much fun we would have, and vice versa. So it does put the child in a tricky situation. It's like, oh, I want to share with you all the fun and all the great things that I'm doing, because that's part of my life and you're my parent and I love you and I want to share, but also don't want to hurt them. And it's a tricky situation. And I think, to piggyback off what Tasia said, to answer this viewer's question is it okay that I'm feeling this way? Absolutely. I think it would be odd if you weren't feeling a certain way about that, because your relationship with this man did not work. And so you want to protect your child, thinking that they're going to have the same dynamic and same relationship that you and he had, but they're completely different and separate. So, and as long as your child is safe and there isn't any, risk of harm or abuse or anything like that in the situation, then I think that it would be, now I'm distracted, but I think that it can, hold on one second.
Hey, Dr. Hayley's a human being. Wow.
I am a human being and a mom, and you got to see a little snippet of that. But I think that, it is one of those things that taking that relationship, making it a separate entity as best as you can. And if you are struggling with that, to talk to somebody, as Barb said, like, it's okay, go get help, go get therapy, deal with your own grief, because that relationship has severed, but allow your son to have his relationship that he is seeking out and needing with his father.
Dr. Hayley, I agree with you, and I'm grateful that I get to follow you. And that's because what you're saying is, as long as we're very clear that the relationship with the father is, or for that matter, that the other partner in the divorce is safe, it really needs to be something that we can ultimately foster for the child. And that's because little people need big people to show them the way. And this particular person needs to tell her son, whatever I feel about your dad shouldn't be how you feel about your dad. You go and learn and grow, and don't let me get in the way of what could be a nice relationship. Your dad and I didn't necessarily work out, but that doesn't mean that you and your dad can't work out. And the reason why I say this is because we bring children into this world to teach them how to improve this world. And if they improve the world with anger, they're not really doing that job. So we put our anger aside, as sad as it is to have that moment of human jealousy, and we recognize that we're giving the world the gift of a healthy child who can grow up and know that he can love his father and he can love his mother, even if his father and mother can't love each other.
Beautiful.
How do you follow that? You don't.
And
Okay.
that's why Dr. Norman goes last.
That is, as I read this and I'm listening to everything that all of you are saying, and I'm rereading the question, 2 words jump out off the page, off the phone. It is horrible divorce, not a divorce, not a, a fair fight. It was a horrible divorce. And after I raised my son alone. So it sounds like the son is older and an adult. And I don't blame anybody for feeling anything in 2022, right? I mean, we're all over the map. It's hard enough just day to day. So I think everybody has to give themselves a little permission and a little, just a little cushion and a little pat on the back now and again. And it's okay. But I don't know. I mean, I am not a child of divorce. And
by the way, I am also not a child of divorce. And that doesn't mean that I don't believe that divorce can be helpful for some people, but it also means that the child has to be disidentified with the parental struggle.
That's a very, I mean, that's the thing is the most that you can cushion the blow of the anger between the parents. I mean, that was what we, as children, I know we always felt that we could never be fully present with either parent because we always felt that we couldn't express our lives on the other side of it. And that was painful for us as children. But certainly, again, for the parent that feels injured or hurt, it's really like we're all saying, to get that support. If you need support, to have therapy, to get some support so that you can process it and then not have that residue inside. So I think that's the paramount part, that the feelings are all okay. What you do with them is the most important. And if you can keep them away from your child and process them and support yourself so that you can be your best self no matter what, that at the end of the day, everybody wins then.
That's fantastic. And I'll just kind of put a little bow on it with this one. I almost want to commend this person for having these feelings, because that's a good parent. That's somebody that's in protection mode of their child, whether they realize it or not. Right. So it's, look, we're just trying to live here, baby. You know what I'm saying? It's keep your head up. And that great advice and great perspective from everyone. And I really didn't know that about any of you. So I learned something every week, and it was really interesting to hear everybody's different take and story, and meeting Dr. Hayley's family. So that was, see, Dr.
Beautiful
Hayley's
son.
a mom. It's
Beautiful
all good.
son.
All right. So speaking of family, let's keep rolling here with our next question, guys. And again, here, it's the relationship version of MBVS. Okay. So my 72-year-old mother lives alone and was recently diagnosed with mild cognitive impairment. I live hours away and cannot visit often. I try as best as I can to be available to help, but I also have a home, husband, children, and a career. Am I being selfish for not dropping everything to help my mom like how she's done for me? I mean, I feel like so many adults that are in between, they're in the rock and the hard spot, right? You're raising your own family, your parents become older, and in a sense, you reverse those roles where you feel like you have to become the parent and take care of them, and you're taking care of everybody who's taking care of you, right? And it's hard. So I don't know. I'm really excited to get everyone's perspective on this. What do you guys got?
I guess I'll go again first, quickly, because I feel like I have the least experience on this. But I just started helping to take care of my dad. In fact, one of the reasons I wrote that book back there, which is called "And Then One Day the World Copped," is because I made a big decision to go home during COVID. And I noticed a trend with a lot of my friends that they moved out of the big cities and went back home, wherever that is. And I love that. I love that, you just touched on it, Mark, that in 2022, we all have a right to feel whatever we're feeling. I wish people were feeling more instead of yelling and using their egos and getting into here as opposed to here and their gut. And again, one of the reasons I wrote that book is because I was reflecting on the great awakening that's happening right now, where people are finally putting their priorities straight after facing death in the face, whether it was through, you name it, it all came up in the last 2 years. And it's still happening in certain ways. It doesn't, you don't have to just blame COVID for that. So I love that we are taking better care of our mental wellness. This show came out of that, out of Clubhouse as well. And we have seen weekly how dire need people are for that. Going home and taking care of my father, to get back to the topic, is one of the greatest things I've done in my adult life, because as I mentioned before, I did not have such an easy road with my dad. And we have grown so much. He has early onset Parkinson's as well as early leukemia. And I believe we caught it early and we're fixing and healing early. And you can ask, him as well. We have healed so much, our relationship, our own self, and as well his dis-ease. And the mental and the emotional and spiritual, of course, has such an effect on our physical. So I would just say to this person, see if you can use this as an opportunity to grow for yourself. And I would just disagree with the one sentence where he says, do I drop everything? I would stay away from that idea, because I think that in itself is catastrophizing. I only see my dad, and only is a strong word, the entire day once a week. And for me, it's what I could give. And so if you can find ways to find a way to be there for your parent, and it might only be 10 minutes a day, like start slow, see how you can handle it. And you may find that your own personal growth is so exceptionally in a growth mode and inspiring mode that you'll enjoy it. And then I will close with this, which is I once heard a Rebbitzin tell me that her mother, even in Parkinson's, and she had major Parkinson's, always was her mother. She never consciously wanted her to take care of her. And I think that is so important today, because as a parentified child myself, I'm so sensitive to taking care of parents in unhealthy, unnecessary ways. And you will know if you check in with yourself when you've gone too far.
Mm.
I think I like this question a lot. I think it's really interesting that we have both of them in the same episode, where we have the mother's perspective on the child, and then now the child's perspective on the mother. And this idea of parentifying, right? It's like, when do you switch to that role? And if you need to. Now, one thing I would say to this listener is with mild, now this is the neuroscientist hat I'm going to put on. So with mild cognitive impairment, that is very early stage. So you might not ever get to that Alzheimer's diagnosis or even a dementia diagnosis. It is early, and it's almost a blessing that you caught it when you did, instead of waiting until it got to the point where there are really significant impairments that are, now they're not going to be able to drive, and they're not going to be able to do things on their own. So at this point, depending on the disorder and the level of, capabilities that this individual has, yes, it's challenging that they're living alone. So there's nobody there to kind of monitor and make sure that it's not progressing. But, talk with your mother, make sure that she's okay. And she probably wants to continue to have that independence, and, make sure that you're not stepping in too much, because that might not be what the mother wants. So have that open communication to see what they need, and then be able to check in, and not as like a doctor, right? But as a caring child, saying, hey mom, how's it going today? Did anything weird happen, or things like that? And some other tips of advice to help slow the progression of the disease so that it doesn't get worse is to really take care of your brain health. And two empirically sound and based on research ways that you can help with this kind of a diagnosis would be aerobic exercise. So getting out there, getting that oxygenated blood flowing through your body. Research has shown that can slow the progression of dementia, being around and having social interactions with other individuals. So if this person lives in a 55 plus community or with neighbors, they can go for walks together. Hey, they're killing two birds with one stone there, right? But then also challenging your brain, doing, like the Wordle, Sudoku, whatever it is that interests them, that really challenging their brain so they're not just sitting on the couch watching TV all day, which will make the progression, can make it worse. So increasing that aerobic activity, challenging your brain on a day-to-day basis, and then checking in with the mom as best that you can, and then start having those conversations now before it gets too late. Like, hey mom, at what point do we want to have a check-in and say, okay, you're going to come live with me, or we're going to go look for, care, or we're going to have a nurse come in and check on you weekly or daily or things like that. What are some benchmarks that we can have that conversation now before it gets too late and there might be some tension at that point? So hard, tricky situation, but great question.
Yeah, I wanted to, that is a very difficult conversation. Those are the kinds of conversations we like to put off. But in terms of the dynamic, just because I love communication, and that's my wheelhouse of, I shared in my TEDx talk that my mother and I had a very tenuous relationship, and she was sick most of my adult life. She had an illness, polycystic kidneys, and was sick growing up. And I was a lot of the caretaker, and was resentful at times because I was trying to take care of my family and her at the same time. And because we carried some history, I really felt like I wasn't able to be compassionate enough for what she really needed, which sometimes really was just the tone of my voice. When you check in, it's how can we bring ourselves, what do they need from us? They could need a lot more than just the kindness. They might need help, but if you can remember that those are the things, if you're going to make that call, if you're going to reach out, how can you bring your best self to that conversation? And that is something I didn't do enough. And I truly regret that, because my mom is no longer here. And I couldn't do as much for her as I wanted to because I had my own family. But what I could do, and those times I was kind and compassionate, I'm really happy with myself. But the times that I wasn't, where I was snippy or short-tempered or told her she was, a burden, essentially, I regret that. So tone and intention, if you are going to be there for that parent that you love, as this person said, that they have a great relationship. But even if you don't, remember that if you are going to show up, what you can bring to that relationship to lift her up is such a small thing, but it can make a huge difference, and it'll make a difference in how you feel after the fact. That's my take.
It's wonderful, Tasia, to hear you speak in terms of giving great voice, because you're saying show up with great voice if you're going to show up at all. So thank you for that. And I wanted to also comment on how Dr. Hayley, as well as Barb, have spoken about the issue of whether or not the person taking care of their mother is doing the right thing by also taking care of themselves and their own family of creation. And I want to suggest that according to healthy dynamics in families, we must make sure that we have a mature separation from our family of origin to who we are now in the family of our creation, which means we absolutely honor thy mother and we honor thy father. But we are an Abrahamic tradition. Most of our religions speak in terms of a covenant, which means we go forward to the generations that follow, which means that in order to help our mothers and fathers, we take care of their grandchildren, our children. This is the legacy that goes forward in the Abrahamic traditions. Having said that, I'm trying to assuage the feeling that this person may have that they're not being a good enough daughter or son. That's just not true. Murray Bowen, the father of family therapy, has spoken about the concept of differentiation. It's a very clinical term. What it means is, how well have you matured and separated from your family of origin? It means you must also think about the family you've created. Your marriage and your children's needs are at stake as much as your mother and father's conditions are at stake. If you can manage both generations by showing up with great voice, by honoring your own needs, but by also recognizing that there are others that can help and that the disease itself may not progress in the way that you fear, you will find the right balance to take care of thy mother and thy father and generate for the future generations ahead.
Powerful. So much powerful perspective here. I mean, and again, to just bring it full circle right back to, paraphrase Barb, you give what you can give, right? I mean, look at the buzzwords here. It's the last line. Where is it? Come on, Hayford, pick it up, baby. Okay. Am I being selfish for not dropping everything? Not dropping everything. It's not like this person's gaming, vaping, and eating Cheetos in the lazy boy, right? No, right? No, this person is, husband, kids, home, work, like busy, like life, like, so again, I think the theme of all these questions that we've been fielding, give yourself a pass. Like you're doing what you can do. You give what you can give. Take a breath, step back from it. Don't get all, go ahead,
Correct.
Dr. Norman. Yeah.
Yes.
No, that's it. That's it. Beautifully
When
said,
you
Mark.
give lovingly if you're going to
Right.
give, so that you don't feel resentful.
Well, I'm resentful because we're out of time and I hate that. But before we go, let's do a quick round horn 60-second. I want everybody to give just a little thought of the week, something to fill people up, to keep them carried on until we have our next episode. Somebody drop it like it's hot, because it is.
I'll go. Don't wait till you get the MCI diagnosis. Get out, go get some aerobic exercise, get some vitamin D from the sun, go talk to people, be social, be happy, put that smile on your face. Everybody who's listening to this right now, as soon as we're done, go do that.
You matter. You're amazing. Lots of self-love. Start with that. And when you fill up your own cup and it overflows, you have so much more to give, and go out and give great voice.
I was going to say, when you fill up your own cup, you said it better than me. I was going to say, when you take care of yourself, everybody wins. And that goes for, be kind to your parents, adult children, younger children too. If you happen to be listening to this, you're doing a great job, but maybe have parental consent before you listen to our show. And if you are a parent of children, put them first, when you can, and on both ends when you're giving too much of yourself. But balance is what I would say.
And I would also add that today's theme seems to have been a lot about whether or not I'm a good enough child, I'm a good enough parent. There's a sense of guilt and a sense of shame. Please remember, turn your guilt into virtue. Do what you can to improve the condition of those lives that you love. There's nothing to be guilty about when you take care of people in the best way you know how.
Mike has been dropped.
Bam. And we land the plane, ladies and gentlemen. This has been the end of the MBVS show for this episode. So for Dr. Hayley, Dr. Norman, Barb Bombs, T-Money, Tasia out there on the West Coast, I'm Mark Hayford. And until next time, be well, take care of yourself, take care of each other. We'll see you next time.